Hey everyone, welcome to Data List. I'm very glad that you're here. Today we're going to be in Excel and we're going to be practicing quite a few skills. So without further ado, let's take one more look and let's get right into it. Hey guys, so let's get right into it. So first thing we're going to be doing is talking about how to navigate the toolbar, which is this entire section up here. There's so many tools here that they weren't able to fit them all in one area. So they have different tabs. For example, over in the data tab, we have our tools for sorting and filtering. For insert, we can insert tables, we can insert pictures. Now, throughout what we're going to do here with this video series, we're going to see almost all of these at play, and we're going to learn how to use them quickly and effectively. So what we're going to do right now is go over to the File tab, and this is where you're going to manage most of your files. In addition to just saving and closing, this is also where you can change the data type of the file in case you're trying to load it into an SQL or some other database. So what let's do now is let's go back to here. This is the workbook that we have open. And one more thing, so you'll see this toolbar here. This is called a quick access toolbar. And so what this is used for, instead of clicking home or insert or layout, you can just add some of your most frequently used tools. As a data analyst, for me, I usually add the sort and the filter to my quick access toolbar. And it just makes the workflow a lot faster. Now we still have a few more things that we want to navigate through. So up at the top, we have this bar, which is where we can enter and edit data. It's more of a text box kind of thing. So we can also do formulas here. And you'll notice that the workbook, which always has at least one worksheet, is divided into rows that go left and right and columns which go up and down. Each cell, which is where they meet, has its own unique identifier. For example, here's 05. So let's also go down, and here are the sheets, and we can click through these different sheets. We can also add a sheet and rename that sheet and delete that sheet. One other thing here is that we can also zoom in and out. And this is a pretty handy tool, especially when you start to look at much larger data sets or much smaller data sets. And here are some viewing options that we're going to be taking a look at a little bit later. Another thing here, when we go down, let's select some data. So if we select a few rows of data, what you'll see is it actually performs some automatic calculations for you. So down here in the status bar, we can see the average, the count, and the sum of the data that was selected. This can be very quick. This can be very helpful when you want to be quick with things, you don't want to input a formula, and you just need to provide an answer right away. Now, in order to wrap this small section up, let's go over to our File tab, and let's go ahead and save as. Now, the nice thing here, so first of all, you already know this, you can save it for whatever you want, but depending on where you are in your data journey and what you're doing for data, you may want to be saving this into a different data type. And this is one of the really cool things here. It's very easy to do. So oftentimes when I save queries or save results from an SQL database, it doesn't present it to me in an Excel workbook. It usually presents it to me in a CSV. So all I have to do is load it up and resave it as an Excel workbook. It is a very handy tool. So without further ado, let's keep moving on. What we're going to do now is let's go back to our worksheet here. So let's hit the back button. And so what we're going to do is talk about selecting some of that data. So let's scroll down. And by the way, here's a quick shortcut. So I'm here, I don't really know where I am, but there is one quick way. If you hit Control Home, it takes you back to the beginning of the data set. But for now, let's go over, let's click to our next sheet, and we're going to take a look at some of the icons we have. So when you have this white cross, you are selecting data, okay? And you can select it in just about any way that you want it. Now, if you go down just a little bit, that icon changes, and this is your move icon. So, I didn't mean to do that, so my favorite key is Control Z. It'll put that right back. So for the last one, is if you select this data and you have this solid black cross, and let's look like we're selecting the data. It doesn't select the data. It copies the data. This is the fill handle. It is one of the most incredibly useful tools that we're going to go over in this session. Now, something else when it comes to selecting is that we can select entire rows, entire columns, or the entire spreadsheet. So let's go over here, and we have A, and I want to select A through E. Click and drag. All right. So same thing with the columns. Let's say 3 through 10. Now, if you want to select the entire spreadsheet, go up to this corner here and double click. This is a very handy tool for later on when we start doing a lot of different things. But wait, that's not all. Something else that you can do is if you're dealing with a particularly large data set, what you do is click wherever you want to start for that selection, hit shift, and then click wherever you want to end. It'll select all of that data. One more point, which I think is actually a better tool, is to click anywhere in the data set and then hit Control A for all. It'll select all of that data. One more thing on selecting before we move on from here is what if you want to select two separate columns of data? You know, if I say I want the account managers, so I'll go down and I'll go, oh, that didn't work. Okay. It's the control key. So select your select your account managers, hit control, and then select Q4. All right. So guys, let's move on from here. Let's start doing some fun stuff. So let's take a look at some view options. If we come down here, we talked about earlier how we have the zoom, we have the slider, and we also have, so just double click it. And it'll take a kind of a little bit more incremental than just the zoom slider. But I also want to take a look over here. So this is the page layout. So this is a really good way to view your sheets before you take them to printing. It's going to give you a really good idea of what it's going to look like. Additionally, we also have the page break view. This is really good for getting a nice general overview of all the sheets and the data that it has. Now, this is really for printing or other special reasons. For the most part, you're going to be here in normal view. Now, let's go back up here just for a moment. Let's actually go to our view tab. And on the ribbon here, you'll see we have normal, page break, page layout, the same tools as we do down here. Now, additionally up here, there's a few more things when it comes to viewing. We can get rid of the grid lines, which isn't something we normally do unless we're building a dashboard, which we will do, because I do want to take you guys through some portfolio projects that you can be able to show employers. So, but let's keep those grid lines on. So we also have the zoom. So let's say I'm zoomed way out for whatever reason, and I'm just, Mr. Fumblefingers is in for a visit. And I can go up here and hit zoom 100%. Takes us right back. Let's take a look at another viewing option. And this one is a little bit more advanced. So this is split. So if you click that, your screen is now split into 4 distinct windows that you can navigate separate from the others. 4 windows is a bit much. So let's double click in the middle here. And now we just have 2 windows. This is particularly useful if you are trying to look at data at the top of your screen and the bottom of your screen simultaneously. Now, as handy and useful as splitting is, there's a tool that I think is even a little bit better. And what that is freeze panes. So in order to use this correctly, the placement of it is pretty important. So for example, I want to freeze these 3 rows and I want to freeze these 3 columns. So what that means is no matter where I scroll, these are going to stay still. So you want to go exactly to the right and exactly below where you want to freeze. Let's hit freeze panes. And now if I go down, I still have this. I have order number, order date, customer name. I have all this information here. Now, if I go to the right, I have my columns. They stay the same. And to get rid of that, well, to bring it back to normal, we're just going to go over to unfreeze. Very useful, especially when you're looking through a large data set with a lot of different columns and you're like, geez, was that customer type or order type? So very useful tool. So what we're going to do now is let's come over into File. Let's open up a new workbook. And what we're going to do there, so let's say new blank workbook. So what we're going to do, we're finally going to be getting into some fun and interesting things. So that includes some entry. So let's just practice with something simple. So let's put in expenses. You know what? Let me zoom in actually. Let me have a couple clicks here. 1, 2, that's about good. Okay. So now what you'll notice is if I hit enter, it goes down. So let's create something new. So let's say item. Now I don't want to go down. I want to go across. I will hit tab and I'll put cost. So I'm going to put in just a few things that I bought today. The first one was carrot cake. My wife loves carrot cake and she is such a hard worker. She trains, she takes care of me, which is usually a full-time job. And so whenever I go out to get groceries, I always get her something. I think that cost about $3.50. You know what? I also bought coffee while I was out. That was about $2. Don't worry about using dollar symbols right now. When we get into some different formatting options, and by the way, coffee needs 2 Fs. When we get into different formatting, we're going to learn how to do that much faster than just as part of our typing. So let's add a couple more things. You know what? I also bought a whole chicken for us to cook. And wait, no, I didn't buy whole chicken. That was yesterday. So let's delete that. So we can do 2 things here. We can use the delete key. Now, what's important to remember is that doesn't delete the row. That just deletes what is in the row. So if I were to come down here, let's put chicken back. So Control Z. And let's say I put steak and that was $8. Okay, chicken, I'm going to get rid of it. But I also want to get rid of the row, not just what's in the cell. So you're going to actually click on the row and you're going to hit delete. Now that is going to delete the row and the rest is going to come up and take its place. Now something that every expense report needs is a date. Let's go ahead and put in our date. So here it is, December the 28th of 2022, at least for a few more days, and enter. Now, something you might notice here is that it automatically made enough space so the entire date could be seen. Now, it doesn't do this for all data. For example, the carrot cake, it kind of gets cut off here. Now, there's 2 things you can do. The first thing is you can manually come between the columns and extend that as far as you need it to be. Something else that I think is a little bit better is I select the whole data set and then I double click in between. Now that makes enough room for everything everywhere in the data set. And it's usually one of the first things I do when I'm looking at a data set because, well, you need to see all the column names. One last thing let's get into before we move into my favorite tool, which is the fill handle, is let's just add this up here really quickly. Now, we're going to get into formulas in the next video, not in this one, but what we can do now is we can auto sum. So click below what you want to have calculated. Let me move myself down, by the way. And you're going to go right here to auto sum. Now it detects everything above it. That is a numeric value. That is a number. So when it comes here to text or string data, it knows not to try to add that. All you have to do is hit enter, and there it is. Done. So let's move on to the fill handle, which is our last tool, and it is incredibly powerful. All right, everyone. So for the last exercise for this video, we're going to be talking about the fill handle. So we have a roster here of employees and shifts and dates, and we're going to use the fill handle to do most of the work here for us. So when you hover over a cell and you click on it, you'll get a white cross. Now, if you come over here to this little corner, it becomes a thin black cross. Now this is the fill handle. Simply click and drag it down, and it copies the information. Let's do this for the record ID. Okay, now instead of copying it, it added to the serial. So Excel knows if it encounters a text value and a numeric value together, the fill handle will simply add a 1 onto the end of that record. Now, let's do the same thing for dates. Let's go on down, and it puts the dates in sequential order. Now, if we come over here, we actually have a few different options. We could only fill in weekdays. We could fill in months. So, for example, if your business is only a Monday through Friday, you'd have no need for the Saturday, Sunday dates. But we're just going to keep it as it is for now. The days, let's drag it down, puts it in sequential order. Now, that was fast, but I'll show you how to even do it faster. Let's Control Z, and instead of dragging down, just double click. That was way faster. I'll show you how to do it even faster than that. In fact, let's go back 3 rows. Let's select those 3 columns and double click those 3 columns. Look at that. All 3 columns completely filled out with 2 clicks. Let's go over to our hours. We know for this one, we just want to copy that information. All the hours are 8. Now, for the shift number, let's double click that. Well, it just gives us a copy, but we don't want a copy. We want it to be formatted so that it fills a series. So just like what I showed you on the date, we have the same thing here. We have an extra option box, and we can fill this as a series. When it comes to the cumulative hours, this one might look a little tricky. So if we take 8, it's just, again, going to copy that data down. Let's undo that. But if you take the 8 and the 16, and then you copy down, that makes the cumulative hours. So Excel can pick up pretty simple patterns very well. And in fact, when we start getting into formulas, Excel can do this very well. For our last one here, we're going to do something which I think is actually pretty cool. So let's go ahead and let's take these 2 columns. Let's go ahead and fill handle those. Now, we can do this with formulas, which we will be doing later on in other videos. But for now, we're going to use what is called Excel's flash fill. So we have Rajesh Hudson. Now his email, Rajesh, first name, .Hudson, and then it fills in the email. So if we go ahead and fill handle this in, it just copies the info. But if we take the flash fill option, then here we go. It picks up the pattern. It's a slightly more complex pattern, and it does a great job of filling these out with the same pattern we want to make emails. So you guys, I know this has been kind of a lot today. I want to say thank you so much for sticking around. I have these exercises and these Excel sheets in the description below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'm planning to make a lot more like it. I want to take you guys from zero to hero. We're also going to be going over some portfolio projects that you can put on your GitHub or your LinkedIn or show potential employers. So, hey guys, until next time, bye for now.